Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. Hope everybody's doing okay. Richard Fulmer here, and welcome to another Richard's Rock Rambles. So today we're going to have a look at a British band that weren't around for too long, made a good few albums, a couple of live albums, some compilations as well. And I'm talking about the band Trapeze. And there were a few members within Trapeze who would go on to much bigger things later on. But this was the band that they all started in. And some early stuff is really good blues-based power trio stuff. In the very first album was very different. I'll get to that in a minute. So let's just have a look and see what I have to show you. I don't have all the albums, but I think I have the ones that really matter. So their first album, let me first tell you where they were formed. They were formed in Staffordshire, Cannock, Staffordshire in the UK in 1969. So 69, 70, 71 for me is when all the really great music was being produced. Guys were starting out. Hendrix was around at the time. That to me is the golden period for rock. Those late 60s, early 70s. I mean, the Beatles and the Stones obviously before that. But when rock started to get interesting, I think it was around 69 to about 73, 74. So there were 6 studio albums and a couple of live albums. There were 5. And the most well-known of the live albums is one called Live in Texas, Dead Armadillos from 1981. Please excuse my voice. I think I'm coming down with something. So if I sound a little hoarse, forgive me for that. There are also 4 compilations, and the most recent from 2003 called On the High Wire. So let's go all the way back to 1969, and this was the first album, simply entitled Trapeze. That really cool painting. I think that's a well-known painting. I just can't remember. I don't know what that is. I just can't remember what it was called. I do remember looking it up on Google. And there we have the guys in the band. So they were a 5-piece in the beginning. And right at the bottom there, you might recognize that gentleman. That's Glenn Hughes. So this was his starting point. And that gentleman over there is none other than Dave Holland, who would go on to drum for Judas Priest. And there we have Mel Galley, who would go on to Whitesnake. So these are the 3 guys who started out in Trapeze and obviously went on to much bigger things later on. So this album is very folk-based, very different to what they would become. Still a cool album of its time, I would imagine. Late 60s, sort of folky, almost country rock in parts, bit of blues. Cool album nonetheless. So Terry Rowley and John Jones were the other members of the band. I don't think they lasted too long. I think they left after this album. So side 1, you've got It's Only a Dream, written by Mel Galley. I think it was one of the main songwriters, him and Hughes. The Giants, Dead, Hurrah, Over, Nancy Gray, Wings on side 2, It's My Life, Suicide. Very different album. And this was produced by John Lodge from the Moody Blues, because they were signed to John Lodge's label, which was Threshold, that label there. So he would go on to produce, I think, this and the second album as well. So this one came out in 1970 on the Decca label, self-titled. Cool for its time, as I say. Then we move on to probably the first really true Trapeze album for me, and that one is called Medusa. Some great tracks on here. Producer John Lodge, engineer Roger Quested, recorded at Morgan Studios. Here you had Glenn Hughes, bass guitar, piano, and lead vocals, Mel Galley, guitar and vocals, and Dave Holland on drums. So this was also in 1970, so this was a few months after the first one. So, as I said before, in those days, guys are very prolific. You could have 2 or 3 albums in 1 year. Black Cloud is amazing, 6 minutes long. Great vocals from Glenn Hughes. You can already hear where he was going to go to with his voice. And great bass playing, obviously. Jury, Your Love Is Alright, another cool track. Touch My Life, Sea Full, Makes You Want to Cry, and for me the best track is the title track, Medusa. Excellent album. So let's see if there's anything I can show you inside. Yeah, there we go. There's a shot of the guys. down to a trio. The other two guys had left. That's Mulgally. In the middle there's Glenn Hughes, and there's a very young Dave Holland. There's another shot of them. Unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, these haven't been remastered or expanded. I might be wrong. So this is just your basic album. Really cool though. Some nice blues rock. The early stuff had a bit more folk, as I said, and maybe psychedelia. Then for me, the strongest album, the next one, called You Are the Music, We're Just the Band. And that's a cool live shot there of the guys. They were actually a lot bigger in the States. They went over to the States, very big over there, especially in the southern states. And they were noticed by Bill Ham, who gave them quite a few leg ups when they were in the States. And of course, Bill Ham would go on to be the manager and producer of ZZ Top. So he was, he was really into the power trio stuff. So say the lineup: Dave Holland, Mulgally, and Glenn Hughes. Glenn Hughes also played piano on here, like he did with the previous album. Additional musicians, you had Rod Argent on electric piano. And the one track on here that really blows my mind is a track called Coast to Coast. That was a Glenn Hughes written track. Really great singing and bass playing. And I think that track would go on to feature on one of his own solo albums. I think Hughes Thrall, they do another version of it on there. Keeping Time, What is a Woman's Role, Way Back to the Bone. That's a cool track. Also a bit of funk involved. Obviously, when Glenn Hughes went to Purple, he introduced a whole bunch of funk. That was more the R&B funk side of him. Really good. That's Way Back to the Bone. Feeling So Much Better Now, Will I Love End, Loser, and You Are the Music, the title track. Also really cool. And there's another shot of the guys. Glenn Hughes with his, I think he was playing a Fender. No, it wasn't it was a Fender back in those days. Dave Holland in the middle there, and that's Mulgally. So that was that lineup. Then Glenn Hughes left. Deep Purple came calling and they said, listen, we've got a slot in our band. Roger Glover's been given the old heave-ho. Would you be interested? And of course, you want to further your career, obviously more money and more prestige. So he said, thank you very much. And he joined Deep Purple. And of course, the rest is history with Burn, Stormbringer, Come Taste the Band. And he would go on to do a lot of things with Deep Purple. And I thought he brought a lot to Deep Purple, especially the funk side of things, the singing, the bass playing. So that would be his big break. And Mulgally also left and he would go join White Snake. Sorry, I've just got this very nosy cat here today. So then we get to an album from 1974 called Hotwire. Very different. It's still rock, maybe a bit more commercial. Backstreet Love, that's a good track. Let me just tell you who else is on here. So Dave Holland is still in the band. Pete Wright on bass guitar and backing vocals now in place of Glenn Hughes. Rob Kendrick on guitar. Mulgally was still in the band at this stage. So Mulgally is still here on guitar and lead vocals. So that's Hotwire. Not great tracks on here. Take It On Down. It's very generic sort of hard rock. Midnight Flyer, Wake Up, Shake Up, Turn It On. It's not a bad album, but I miss Glenn Hughes here, especially his vocals. He just brings such a lot. There you can see the cat. He just brings a lot to the band and to any band really, especially with his vocals. So that was Hotwire. Other notable members over the years, they had Pete Golby on guitar and vocals from 1978 to 81. And Pete Golby obviously went to go and sing for Uriah Heep at a later stage. Also a great singer. And Jeff Downs on keyboards from 1991 to 1992. I think Trapeze later on had a few of these reunion things. I think Glenn Hughes actually got back together and they were going to do an album, and that never transpired. That never happened. So Jeff Downs from Yes and Asia. I think he was in Asia as well. So he joined the band. Bit of a strange fit for Jeff Downs on keyboards. I don't think they were really a keyboards kind of band. For me, Trapeze is always the power trio stuff. Interesting band. If you can find those early ones that I mentioned, Medusa and You Are the Music, these two here, these are the ones to get hold of. And if for nothing else, to hear what Glenn Hughes was like in the early days. So there we go, guys. Trapeze, please, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. And next time we're going to have a look at a German band that I don't think I've covered yet. I must just check that. The great German band, the Scorpions. And very different career as well. Lots of lineup changes. Perhaps the earlier stuff for me is the best, but we'll get to that in the next one. Take it easy out there. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.
Let's do Pussycat. Whoa!